Hello. I wanted to show you a book that I just had a nonfiction essay in. It's the Pocket Workshop, produced by M. Hugh Evans and Todd McCoy for Clarion West. It's essays on living as a writer. And I took some of the stuff that I had done before on mentoring and mentees, and that was my contribution to the book. I thought that I would read it out loud. If you want to get a copy of this after you've seen it and read what other people have done, it's available in hardback and softcover. All right. On mentors and mentees. One of the great traditions in fantasy and science fiction writing is that of the mentor-mentee relationship. We're told of many of the earlier writers mentoring newer ones, offering advice, passing along opportunities, and sometimes collaborating. The science fiction and fantasy writers of America, SFWA, arose out of that impulse to help fellow writers and to acknowledge that helping others was one of the best ways to help the industry overall. I first became aware of the tradition in a workshop with Anne Crispin, who was herself one of the great mentors, teaching and guiding countless writers, and I've always been glad that I followed her advice. Gazing out over a basement room full of Dragon Con writers, she solemnly told us, here's what you do. You sell a story at SFWA pro rates. You join SFWA, and you start paying it forward then. Sometimes this relationship takes the form of collaborating with newer writers. I was lucky enough to do so with Jeff Vandermeer on a novelette called The Surgeon's Tale, and many of the things I learned while working on that piece remain with me to that day. Mike Resnick was another writer known for mentoring younger ones, collaborating with literally dozens of them. And I myself wrote a story with Mike, The Mermaid Club, in which we had a lot of fun spoofing Starbucks. You always learn something when you work with another writer, and it is particularly illuminating to work with someone who really knows their stuff. But knowing of this tradition's existence can frustrate a new writer, particularly one that is geographically separated from their fellow writers, and make them feel as though they are missing out on one of the more important advantages. At the same time, there is a certain wistful mystique that sometimes distorts what the relationship actually is, and that's understandable. Who doesn't want someone older and wiser who wants to help you succeed and open up opportunities to you? The truth is that rarely, if ever, happens. How do you find mentors? There are several traditional ways. Go where the writers are. Nowadays, there are virtual spaces open for networking, discussion boards and Discord channels, online conferences, and other gatherings. Go and spend some time connecting with people. Volunteering is one of the best ways to become part of a community in a way that will help you identify who may be willing to act as a mentor. Figure out who those mentorly types are. Look for the writers who spend time promoting other people, who recommend other people's works, not just their own. Watch them on panels to see who gracefully encourages other voices to speak and listens to them when they do. Look for the people who are trying to do things right. SFWA. SFWA created and runs a program that connects mentors and mentees, but the program is only open at certain times of the year. Check the SFWA website for details. You do not need to be a member to be either mentee or mentor. Take workshops and classes. Afterwards, let the instructors know about what you're doing. I'm always pleased when a student tells me that something written in class has found a home, and many of my mentees come from the pool of those who have taken my classes. Don't ask. Should you mail someone out of the blue and say, be my mentor? In my experience, probably not, unless you have some definite tie with them to which you can point. Being too aggressive at this point actually is a good way to get yourself known, but not in a good way. A mentoring relationship is, in my experience, something that grows slowly, sometimes perhaps out of some small ask, or perhaps from a shared experience like a workshop or panel at a convention. It's definitely a form of friendship, but it's one that, to me at least, seems to be one that pulls from this teacher-student relationship as well. And as such, it has all the same needs for ethical behavior that one would expect out of the latter. This is important to stress for two reasons. One, human beings are human beings and sometimes attracted to each other in a way where they act first and think afterwards. Sex skews the power dynamic. The two relationships cannot coexist without affecting each other in a way that is, in my opinion, negative. Two, as with any industry, there are predators. If someone offers to mentor you in some capacity, whether it is formal or informal, and it comes with romantic expectations, this is unacceptable. They probably know that too. Be aware that it often begins with small jokes or flirtatious gestures. If a mentor is making you uncomfortable, I suggest severing the relationship. You may want to talk to other people who are being mentored by them. You can also contact SIFWA's Writer Beware program so they are aware of the behavior at writerbeware@sifwa.org. If you have someone you can think of as a mentor, keep some things in mind when dealing with them. Your mentor has their own career, their own work, their own ambitions, their own frustrations and fears. In short, they are as human as you, even if you admire their writing. Make sure they understand you know and appreciate their efforts on your behalf. And that includes being willing to give you chunks of time in a world where that resource is usually the most scarce of all. Here are some other things to keep in mind. Keep working on your own behalf. Use your mentor to assist with that. Don't think it will be the other way around. If you're not putting in effort, why should they? Be responsive in a timely way. Don't ghost people, or if you think you are likely to, let them know what's going on beforehand. I'm more tolerant of a little flakiness on the part of someone who tells me ahead of time that they have issues with depression, for example, than otherwise. Let them know what you're doing and share some of the joys when they occur. Pay attention to your mentor's advice and follow it, or else have a decent explanation why you didn't. It's okay to evaluate advice and not take it, but that's different from not listening in the first place. Don't treat them like a therapist. There's a reason therapists charge money, and part of it is that listening to other people talk at length about their problems can be very draining. Treat them well. Treat your mentor rather like a respected friend whose opinion you value. Do not expect a mentor to beta read, critique, or copy edit your work. That is unrealistic, and it will only lead to disappointment. Do not ask them to introduce you to their agent. If that is likely to happen, they will make the offer. Volunteer. Volunteer for things. Help where you can, because it's never too early to start developing that ethic. If you become a mentor yourself, try to keep in mind that mentoring people who are unlike you will often be the most rewarding experience, and that they will be the ones from whom you learn the most. Actively trying to find mentees who are unlike you also helps fight the human tendency to be drawn to those we physically resemble, a tendency that perpetuates existing power structures such as racism, ableism, transphobia, and other negative tendencies. This is, in fact, one of the best ways to make sure that our field continues to grow in diversity. Perhaps not I cut all this way and then screwed up the last line. Perhaps not coincidentally, it's an excellent way to grow as a writer and teacher yourself. All right. If you want this, I believe it is available from the Hydra House website, which I will link to in the description of the YouTube one, and also in Instagram. And Yeah, actually, if you get it and you want a signature for it, I have book plates. Mail me and I'll sign a book plate for you and mail it to you. All right. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please like, please comment, please subscribe. If there is something you want to see, let me know and we'll see if we can make it happen. So, all right. Thanks a lot.